Welcome everyone. I can see a lot of people joining. We'll get started very shortly. It's fantastic to see so many participants. Appreciate you all joining us. Even after all this time, I'm still finding it quite challenging that we're not face to face and that you're all out there in the ether. Thanks, Evan. Nice to see you. So I'm just waiting for a few people to join and then I will introduce all of us. But really lovely to see you all here. I'm just watching the participant numbers go up as everyone logs on. Okay. I think that's finally settled. We've got quite a lot of people here. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Kylie Bryant. I'm producer at StoryFutures and I'm here with Claire Cook. Claire Cook is executive producer on our VR projects, and Anna Furbank, who is our assistant producer. There's also some other members of our team, but you can see Rebecca Frankel is our talent and inclusion manager and is working across our VR projects and our AR projects, which I'll explain shortly. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction on StoryFutures, Storylab, which is the background of this project, and I'll hand over to Claire to talk a little bit more specifically about the companies, the placement roles, and then we'll get on to answering your questions. So just to introduce you to StoryFutures, I'm sure a lot of you may have heard of StoryFutures in different ways, but in some regards, there's two organizations in StoryFutures, StoryFutures and StoryFutures Academy. StoryFutures Academy is a skills training organization, and many of you may have been applied for things for skills training mentorships through StoryFutures Academy, and the Academy is a nationwide organization. StoryFutures, and we'll put StoryFutures website in the chat, is, excuse me, slight interruption here. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, I have small people who've arrived home from school who didn't realize I had this event on. But just to get back to StoryFutures. StoryFutures is aimed at pushing innovation in immersive technology and supporting small businesses through R&D. And so I think that that's important to understand because these 9 VR projects sit within StoryFutures and they are designed to help small businesses grow through research and development. So the companies that are involved in these projects, they're strongly encouraged to innovate through technology and through storytelling, to test out things that they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do so. And they will be working very closely with Royal Holloway academics and we will be testing the success or the challenges they've experienced in this innovative R&D process. So it's really an opportunity for companies. It's not like a normal commission where there is a direct brief and you have to respond to that brief and very specifically meet that brief. Companies have the opportunity to lead the creative direction, the innovation, the technology, and are really, in fact, encouraged to try things that they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do. And that helps them to grow their business, to prove to the marketplace that they can do things in different ways, and it brings more opportunity to their business in the future. So those are the type of projects that you will be involved in, and I think that's why it's a really unique and interesting opportunity, not just an opportunity to work on a VR project, but to work on an R&D project. And I think it's kind of interesting to understand that. So that's Story Futures and our R&D relationship. So our office is located in Egham in the Royal Holloway University, whereas Story Futures Academy's office is located and connected to the Film and Television School and operates nationwide their projects. So Claire, I'll hand over to you to introduce the companies more specifically and the projects in more detail.
Thanks, Kylie. Hello, everybody. My name's Claire Cook. I'm exec producer on this VR R&D challenge. So it's great to have all of you here. It's very exciting that you're interested in this opportunity, and we're looking forward to meeting some of you. As Kylie said, this session's more of a Q&A type session where we're telling you a bit more information about the opportunities, and we've got about, I think, just about a week to go before the deadline on the 8th of November. So hopefully this will give you a bit more information about what it's about. But as Kylie said, it's a very kind of unique opportunity where you can transition from creative production in other areas into VR, which is a space that's obviously growing and changing all the time. It's very exciting. Creative technology is a very exciting place to be at the moment, and hopefully some of you will get some great experience and with some of these companies. So we've got 9 companies in total who are working on 9 different VR projects. They're all quite different. There's I'll go through the list. Obviously this is on the website as well, if you've had a look at that in the FAQs document. So they're all based in and around London. So London, or the Gateway Cluster, which is basically an area southeast to the south and east of London. And they range in size. Some are kind of quite small studios with a lot of VR and animation experience, and some of them are bigger kind of tech VR type studios. So there's a range. We've got Alchemy, Immersive, Diverse Interactive, Surround Vision, Charisma, No Ghost, Furnace Films, Indigo Storm and Studio Anric, Visualize, and Shroom. Now you'll look at their websites. If you look at the links on the company information section on the information on our website, you'll see they do lots of different things. Some of them are very animation focused and narrative focused. Some of them are more product kind of technical approaches, and some are more factual, some are fiction. So you'll see that they kind of have different interests. But what we've tried to do is commission a range of projects across a number of themes, which will then tie in with the BFI and BBC archives. Thematically, the theme is very wide, but what we're looking at exploring are the following themes. So Alchemy are looking at LGBTQ plus stories. Diverse Interacting are looking at a theme of dementia and health. Surround are looking into environmental stories. Charisma are looking at health, disability and technology. No Ghosts have a kind of music driven project. Furnace Films are looking into something more historical based on the Blitz in London. Indigo Storm are looking at the kind of visions of the future from the past, which is a really nice kind of way to see how people thought the future would be and looking forward beyond. And we've got Visualize, which have taken a punk theme, and Shroom, who are doing who are kind of animation experts, and they're looking at the themes of race, class and migration around the location of Blackpool. So it's a really wide offering of projects, and I think they're all got different exciting experiences that we can gain from working on each of those R&D projects. So specifically, like if we go back to what we're looking for, Kylie, do you want to run through what the opportunity is in terms of roles?
Yes, so you may have seen from the application that the companies are looking for a diverse sort of roles, and you have the opportunity to apply for more than one role. So the roles that we are looking at include sound designer, 3D or 2D animator, creative technologist, associate producer, writer and designer more generally. So what we're aiming to do is for you to have a match with your company and to have the opportunity to meet several companies, and the companies will have opportunity to meet several applicants in order to find the best fit for you. So it depends on your background, whether you're transitioning and wanting to break into VR, but you've been a writer previously, for example, or you want to increase your skills. You're already a creative technologist, but you want to have more autonomy and independence and work with a great creative technologist in one of these companies. It will all depend on what you're looking for. And the more that you can outline that in your application, the better, so that we can find a good fit for you within these organizations. But overall, I'd say it's a really great opportunity to be very hands-on, very involved, have a lot of input in the process, to be really part of the outcome, because they're very small, cohesive teams working together, and it provides a lot of opportunity for you to see across the whole VR production how things are working. So I think it might be best to just move very straight on to your questions, and feel free to put all your questions in the Q&A session, or raise your hands. We've just been looking at turning on closed captions. I'm really sorry that we haven't been able to set this webinar up in a way that does that. And we will have the recording, and we'll look at ways that we can help. And if there's any challenges without the closed captions being there, we will have we're happy to have a separate meeting and answer any further questions. Is there a list of the company role project somewhere? No, there isn't, but we can certainly provide one. One point around that question I would like to say is that you can't apply specifically for a project or a company. The key thing is that you are applying for a role and that you've got the skill sets in that role. But you can apply for several different roles if you've got a broad range of experience, which a lot of people do in this sector. And so if you feel you've got creative skills as well as technical skills, apply for 2 different roles. And if you do that, please do apply separately, demonstrating in your application your experience related to that role, then do a second application with your experience related to the other role. It may mean that there's some questions you answer very similarly in each application, but particularly around your experience, it's very clear the role that you're applying for and the experience you have related to that role. Okay, so we've got a lot of other questions coming in. A really great question from Jane. I'm an experienced TV drama producer and want to move into working as a VP producer in drama. Is this the right type of placement for me? What do you think, Claire?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been designed to it's not for new entrants, this placement. It's really about people who are kind of midway in their career, probably not heads of departments, but people who've worked and have some experience in creative production and want to get more immersive virtual experience. So yeah, that does sound suitable. It might be, if you're interested in drama, it might be that the project, because it's based on archive, is more factually driven, but you know that the factual will still drive the story and the character and the dramatic arc of the story. So I think it does sound like a good fit.
I think if you're finding in drama production that you think immersive technology experience would benefit you, particularly VR, and that you see that immersive technology as a way to engage audiences and to be extensions of a different way to tell drama stories, then that's important. But you do definitely have to have an interest in VR and storytelling in VR. So I think that's a key thing.
Yeah, and it's a good idea. I think one of the questions in the application form says it anyway, but it's a good idea that even if you don't have hands-on virtual production experience or VR cross-media experience, in a professional sense, you still may have experienced, games on a headset or gone to an exhibition or have found a really cool AR app. So it would be good to demonstrate that you have an interest in the space as well.
Regarding the part-time or the full-time basis for these, it's a really good question. And I think that that's something that you can negotiate with the company that you work with. Some companies will be very clear in the interview process that they're looking for you for a specific period of time and for a specific amount of days a week. But broadly, most of the companies we've spoken to are quite open to discussing part-time arrangements. Because of the fee, it also enables them to have you involved in the project for a longer time. So there's definitely an opportunity to discuss whether it's part-time or full-time, or whether it's part-time for a certain period and then full-time closer to the time of delivery when everything's going to be very busy. And just to say, when is delivery? Delivery of the projects is the end of May. So the period of employment is from January to May. But that is, you will be contracted directly to the company that hires you, and they will hire you as a freelancer and look at what capacity for what time. Pre-Christmas, it might be onboarding, and then in January to May, you can negotiate how many days a week. I hope that's answered that question. So I've just seen that somebody's asked a question about whether we mentioned the themes of the projects and are you able to express an interest in those areas. Certainly, I think it would help if you've got a particular experience, background across those themes. So we'll list them in the chat, and we can also follow up with you if you have any specific questions about the themes, but we can't place you specifically around a theme or company. But it is definitely helpful to know, if you're hiring someone and your company's business is really focused on environmental aspects, as one of the companies is, and you have a particular interest or you've produced a lot of work which addresses environmental stories or climate change or something like that, please do put that in the additional information. There's a section within your application form where you can put some additional information. Okay. Other topics, Claire, I'll get you to answer this one. It's about the archive. Are the topics developed from the BFI BBC archive decided on a company and project team basis?
Yeah, so the way the archive research is working is that we're working directly with the BFI and BBC, and we have our own StoryFutures archive producer and researcher who are putting together long lists based on the company's initial creative concepts, and also what is available in terms of clearable archive material. So right now there's we've gone through an initial pitch process. We have a kind of top level creative concept for each company, and then they're now working with BBC BFI archive to find the right kinds of archive material that would work with their story approach. It's obviously right at the beginning of the project at the moment, so that process will take a at least between now and Christmas. Some of the projects may be needing more archive support from January, but the creative approaches in terms of what the overall concept and creative direction will be we're already in the process of figuring that out now. So some of the companies will need creative producers or writers of all the roles that we said, but just to be clear, they've already got a sense of what they want to make, so it wouldn't be starting that creative process from scratch when you start.
Someone's asked a question about training and also about funding, and I think I can answer both of those questions together. But in regards to training, there's two types of training, and you may have seen from StoryFutures that we have a lot of different job advertisements out at the moment. And as part of this project, these 9 VR projects, they're between 5 to 8 minute long projects. The aim is for them to screen as part of the Festival 2022. It was known as the Unboxed creative project that's happening next summer, and we'll put a link in the chat to the Unboxed events that are coming up, and that includes from StoryFutures in 9 locations across the UK. We are preparing some augmented reality story trails that are going to be very location specific, and currently there is also a call out for creative practitioners to join those story trails, and those creative practitioners will be very specifically connected to the locations which are across the country, including Blackpool, Dundee, Omagh. I'll get somebody to put the list of the locations into the chat. But what's important is the VR projects are traveling to all of those locations, and we'll screen at each of those locations. So one thing is that the companies that we've selected and the projects that we've selected are very specifically designed to be able to appeal to a very broad audience across the UK. And we've found that VR experiences predominantly that, you have to be based in London to be able to get to see some of these experiences, like the amazing London Film Festival experiences recently, but there's less opportunity for these experiences to travel regionally. So in regards to the training, there is 50 creative practitioners, and you will be part of that pool, and there will be some on-location training at Royal Holloway in January. That's paid training, and when you come to Royal Holloway, you'll be paid for your travel, and it's part of your work day, and the companies are aware that in that time in January that you will be training as a cohort. So it's a great opportunity to network, to build up some other connections with other people in working in immersive technology and creative storytelling in this area. And the other training you will get is within your company. The companies are really excited to have you on board, to mentor you. They're very aware that this is an opportunity for people who want to step up from one level to the other, from transferable skills into VR. And so they know that you don't have to have all the skills or all the experiences. They have a budget in which to produce these projects, and if they needed to hire someone in a specific role, they would hire someone. This additional funding is to provide you with growth opportunity and to for companies to meet and work with people that they might not have worked with before. I mean, I think we all know that there's a tendency for people to hire within networks that they're familiar with, and we want to break out of that we want companies to break out and work with new people and give new people opportunities. So if you're looking, please articulate in your application, you want to step up, you want to grow, where you're headed, what your goals are, because that is the aim of this project, to provide you with that opportunity. And also the companies are excited to meet people who they can, hopefully you'll go on and work with these companies again and work with each other again. So I hope that's answered the training question, but very specifically in early January, there'll be some very specific in-person training, and then there'll be within the company support and mentorship type training. Sorry. So back to more questions. I think there was a question about Claire, this might be if you could answer this more specifically, could you expand on the skills required for the designer role?
Yeah, sure. So designer is obviously a very wide term. It could be any number of things, and we've kept it that open because some companies may need a designer for user experience or user UX UI type design, which is about all user behaviors and also how you interact and how you design for that within a VR space. But then others might be looking for character design, or they may well need assets designed, such as, you know, objects which will then be used in the VR experience. So we've kept it open enough that you know, that the companies can work with someone that they think they might need, but all of these roles are general enough that if you have a specialism, that's a good thing. Tell us what it is, and then, you know, the companies are open-minded to see who that person is and what the best fit might be. It could also, you know, in terms of animation, that crosses over into whether you're a 2D or a 3D animator. That could be asset creation. It could be designing a world, like a VR world, working with the developers to do that, or it could be more the UX UI type approach that I mentioned.
There is just going on to what I was saying about the project's screening in all of the regional locations. I think that is particularly about answering one of the questions. Oh, where has it gone? There was a question about how, if you've got a drama background and these are archive and factual based, which of the projects are more narrative driven? To be very honest with you, our really strong push is for the companies, for them all to be very strongly narratively driven, and very, you know, creative in their storytelling approach. We are StoryFutures, so one of the areas that we are trying to build is this audience engagement through storytelling, not just through whiz bang tech. And it's not enough for a VR experience to just be a cool VR experience. Audiences are beyond that. Even if they haven't experienced VR before, we think we will connect with audiences if it's a really strong narratively driven project, and we're constantly working with the companies and pressing SMEs to build their experience in that area, because there's a lot of challenges in producing a VR project. You have to make it work in a non-linear fashion, and you have to make all the technology work and look good, but in the end you still have to tell a great story. So I think some companies will be stronger narratively, and that will be part of the interview and matchmaking process, but our general focus is that all of them have a strong narrative drive. Would you agree with that, Claire?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, you know, depending on your applications, we'll be able to matchmake the best people with each project. So you know, if you're interested in the narrative and creative development of it, or your speciality is dialogue or, you know, character driven experiences, like that's what we're aiming for. None of these are abstract artistic expressions, or as Kylie said, you know, they're not tech for the sake of it. So we really are trying to commission story driven work, and that's really our focus. And we'd much rather it was an excellent story that was a bit rough around the edges technically than the other way around. So that's why we're interested in bringing people across from film and TV and games and the arts and culture industries into this, so that you can share your knowledge and experiences along the way as well.
And I think that answers one of the other questions about, do I have to have 3 years experience in this particular role in VR? And the answer to that is no. We're just not looking for straight out of university applications. You need to have some experience in working in the sector. So working, if your skill sets are writing or producing, or you've worked in digital content, outline your experience. If you want to use that experience to break into VR, then yes, this is definitely the right role for you. Or you have experience in VR and producing, but you want to get stronger technically, or you have experience technically, but you want to understand more about the whole project. It is that I'm here and I want to get to here within VR. So I've never worked in VR and I want to get in. I've worked here in VR and I want to move across here, worked here in VR and I want to step up here. That is the sort of goal of the applications. And in terms of what you need to submit in your application, if you've got a portfolio of work, yes, please submit it. You don't have to have a portfolio specifically, but definitely outlining the projects that you've worked on, what your role was, how you contributed, what your credits are. You know, it depends on what sector you've worked in, what you might have to demonstrate your experience. But we are happy to accept attachments or links or anything like that, and they will be viewed by the assessors so that we can work out, you know, where your skill sets are. And just on that, absolutely all ages. You know, somebody wanting to transition or step up or come back into the sector, who's been out of the sector, or, you know, there's a whole, you know, we're definitely looking for all ages, all backgrounds. I think that we know we have transferable skills, we know we have experience, but often job applications are very, very specific. You must have had 5 credits in this area and worked, you know, for 5 years in this sector. And this is to open it up to people who don't have those specific responses to a job application. It's much more a matchmaking process than what you would normally go through in a job interview. I saw, Rebecca, you popped on your
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the talent and inclusion manager. And just in answer to that question, what we're looking for here is to just help people who are excited to learn new skills and want to expand what they can do within storytelling. So we're really interested to hear from people who don't normally apply for these schemes and people who might have a bit of a non-linear career. It's completely valid. You might run a podcast with a friend and made a short film and you've got a production job, but it's doing something that's not that creative. Or, you know, you might have racked up a lot of different experiences in different roles or different genres. We're not looking for people who've just got a straight linear CV. I've spoken to people who've worked for a few years, maybe they've had a few years out, they had kids or they were caring for somebody, or they went back to study something else. So in terms of what you need as a minimum, you do have to be over 18 in order to take part in this scheme. And as Kylie said, we're not looking for people just out of university. We're looking for people who can work with other people and know how to collaborate and have got experience of working on a production of some kind. They understand how it works, that there's a schedule and there's different roles. But beyond that, we're quite open to listening to what you can do. So, you know, you tick the box for what skill set you've got for this scheme, and then it's very much a personality-based thing, as Kylie was saying. I did just want to flag, though, whilst everyone is here, that we're actually recruiting 50 people in total. So 9 of them are going to be with this VR scheme. there's another 11 people who are going to be placed on a different kinds of placements with some of our partner companies, people like the BFI, people like Nexus and ISO, who are technical delivery companies. So I saw there was a question from somebody, like, is there a role to be a creative workflow coordinator? So you can totally apply on this VR scheme to be a, there's kind of a producer role. I guess you could put yourself down for that. But there is actually also a role working on the other partner placement scheme where ISO wants someone who's a coordinator of all of the digital and creative assets. So I would very much encourage you to have a look at the other opportunities. We really want to get as many applications for each, and in no way will you be discredited if you apply for more than one. Every application will be assessed separately by different people. And if you're interested in working with AR technology, augmented reality, we've also got 30 places available on the creative practitioner call out, where you actually be working kind of in the field across those 15 locations with the archive in a similar way to the VR program, but you'll also be on the ground interviewing people. So that's less of a kind of production, that's more of a like field work experience. But often, you know, with transferable experience, we're happy to hear from people who don't know exactly where they want to be in the future. They're just really excited about new technology and want to test stuff out. I think this non-linear is a really good way to look at this. You're doing stuff and you want to do some more stuff. Okay, I'm going to hand you back to Kylie now.
There's a question, Claire, on could you expand on the associate producer role and the creative technologist opportunity? And someone also asked about the skills companies might want in sound design. So I'm going to precursor your answer, Claire, because you can be a little bit more specific, but by saying that a producer in one company and a producer in another company can be quite different. And I guess that's why Rebecca mentioned the sort of workflows coordinator, or, you know, if you've worked in a coordinating role or project management role in a different area and you want to step up to being a producer and taking on that responsibility and then producing your own things or producing projects yourself within a company, then that is the workflow. That is the way to go for you. But sorry, Claire, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, associate producer is basically, I guess if you were coming from film or TV, it would follow the same kind of level. So it's not entry level, but it's not senior producer or exec producer. So it's somewhere in between. And that's reflecting the experience that you might have on productions, running them. So that could be anything from film or TV productions through to theatrical productions. My background's actually festivals and digital moving image events. So I kind of shifted from events through to web and then into interactive that way. So I think it's really good if you've got different types of experience, like whether it's from the arts or film or commercials, like it's all relevant and none of it is that different. And quite often you do, especially as a producer, you learn how to do stuff on the job because there's no fixed model of making these things yet across VR and AR and everything else between, because the technology is constantly changing, which also makes it exciting. So really, I guess associate producer, from my experience, it could be project management. It could also be, you know, and project running, but it can also be creative development. It could be managing crew, it could be managing budgets and schedules. It could be editing, it could be edits in terms of story development, making sure everyone's on track with the thing that you've all decided you're going to make. So yes, there'll be some kind of delivery based production skills that you need for that role. But some people might be more on the project management side, and some people might be more on the kind of creative producer side, and both of those are fine. With the creative technologist, so this role is it's for people who have technical skills but can apply them creatively. So, you know, it's a VR film. It's not a tech product or a bit of back-end software. It's a film that's going to reach an actual public audience. So you have to think of it as, you know, an interactive experience that does work as a film experience. That could be live action, animation, 3D, and obviously it will bring in archive as well. So it was very much a hybrid approach. In terms of what creative technologists do, it could be anything from technically and creatively scoping an idea. So, you know, we want to make this, how are we going to make it? What tech can we use to make it? What's in scope? What is possible? What isn't? It could be making proofs of concept or technically prototyping stuff, trying things out. But really with the mindset that you're making creative, new, fun things. You know, it's not a banking app. It's very much about kind of creative tech. Some people might come into that from games design, or they might be a Unity developer or an Unreal dev, or they could be a programmer who wants to make more creative projects. Yeah, again, people's backgrounds are quite varied who end up becoming creative technologists, but it's a really important and ever needed role in most production companies nowadays, that you have someone who understands both the creative and the tech side of how you put these things together. Then the sound designer, again, that might vary. It could be in VR sound, like sound effects. It could be music and sound design. It could be dialogue. If it's character driven, there could be dialogue to record. A lot of, obviously VR is in a 360 space, so it would be spatially, the sound would be spatial, so you can locate sound in specific parts of your story rather than it being, you know, everywhere all the time. So that's really interesting. But yes, it's almost like, if you think of it as a film and a theatre performance, it's creating sound for that. So yeah, they're very varied, but again, depending on your experience and interests, we can, you know, figure out the best approach.
And one more person asking about art direction, Claire, if they've got a background in art directing. I think. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I'm just coughing away. So, I mean, because I have a production company background, quite often you would have a tech lead and a creative lead. If it's animation or, you know, a kind of more visually driven, then you may well have an art director on it as the person kind of steering the look and feel. It could be character design, it could be background design. But I think if you have an art direction background, the best fit would be, you know, creative. You could segue quite easily into kind of creative direction or design and animation. Depending on your skill set, I think that is a fit.
Just on the roles and sort of just going back to the research and development aspect, if you follow StoryFutures, you know, we can be a confusing organization because there's a lot going on. And aside from skills development, which StoryFutures Academy does, which is a lot of the sort of more public and forward-facing work that StoryFutures does, at StoryFutures Cluster, as we call it, the research and development and working with academics is a really fascinating part of our work. So all these VR projects will be tested. They will be tested for different things, like not just audience engagement, but innovation in technology, you know, the ways that the projects have trialed new ways to reach audiences, new uses of archive, new uses of photogrammetry or other sort of different VR production techniques. And they will be constantly tested and reviewed during development, and also once they're in situ. So it's really interesting way for companies to, normally you would have to hire a research organization to ask surveys and have staff to do that. But we, StoryFutures, do all that with these projects. So I'll drop a link in the chat to one of our testing platforms, and we've got a whole audience signed up to that. We're constantly testing the different ways that immersive technology is successful or not. That's an interesting aspect of your work on this project and what companies are doing. Companies had to compete to get this funding. They had to put forward different ideas, and their ideas were selected very strongly on them, their innovation and sort of technical and storytelling creativity to produce these projects. Sorry, someone mentioned is the training with StoryFutures on the 6th to the 7th and the 11th to 14th in person with remote follow-up. Do you need to be there? And the answer is yes, that is a really important part of the process. We're aware that it's very close on the back of winter holidays, but we hope as many of you as possible can make it. It's an important part of the project. There are a couple of also regarding the CV upload, please, if you can keep your CV more like a 2-page resume rather than a long detailed CV. Obviously, we're going to process a lot of applications, so getting as much of your information into the questions within the application form and attaching your CV or portfolio or very key links to augment what is in the application form would be an important way to approach it, I think. These are definitely paid jobs, and £15,000 is the funding amount for this role, and how that will work will be negotiated with your companies. But somebody did ask, you will be paid as a freelancer, and how will you be paid? You would have to invoice as a freelancer. There are some companies that could probably employ you as PAYE. Is that, sorry, I might be making Australian references here, as you can tell by my accent, but the idea is that you would be employed as a freelancer and paid in that way.
Yeah, I think most if not all the companies need you to be self-employed before you start the placement. So if you're not already, it's worth looking at how you set that up. And it's the link, the HMRC link is in the FAQs on the website.
Someone has mentioned inside or outside of IR 35, and I think, Rebecca, do you know the answer to that one? I'm not sure if Rebecca's still here.
Yes, sorry.
Just regarding to freelancing, someone's mentioned inside or outside of RI 35.
Yeah, you need to be registered to have the number where you're a unique registered freelancer number. We've got details of how you do that. It takes about 5 minutes to register. So you do need to have that number in place before you come for interview. So you can apply without being registered, but you just need to register before interview, and it's just in order to be able to pay you. The details about that are all, if you go onto the web page with all the details of the VR placement call out, there's there's a frequently asked questions and a terms and conditions. And I actually think that is flagged on both of those extra handouts. And there's a link to where you do that.
So I'm just getting some more clarity on RA 35, and it's about contracting rather than being self-employed. And I might need to follow up with you to give you a little bit more clarity around that question. So I can follow up with you specifically.
The contracting does need to, just because this came up in a different question, the contracting does need to be to a named individual. It can't be to a company, if that's what your question is. We are contracting an individual. However, the contracting is done through the company. So maybe that's better to follow up.
Sorry, we're getting we're getting more clarity on IR35. I clearly, you could probably tell by my accent, that's my if you have a personal service company in your name, I need to double check whether that would also be eligible and if that's a way that you can get paid. Somebody also asked about writer and script editor roles and which companies are looking for writer and script editors. So all of the companies are looking essentially at all of the roles. Some of them have more preference as to which role that they would like. They'd really like someone with a sound designer. But particularly on the narrative side of things, all of the companies can support writers and will need writers because, you know, there's a lot of different elements to the sort of narrative storytelling that needs to be worked out. So there's not one company that I could say specifically is more specifically looking for a writer over another one. But if you give your experience in writing, your areas of interest, we will try and match you with the best company. And you can, if you're successful and go through the interview process, you'll get a better sense of that. One hint or tip for me is a couple of things. If you're successful to go through to the interview stage, please be aware that those interviews are on the 24th and the 25th of November. Prior to the interviews, we're happy to answer more questions in more detail once you've got through to the interview stage. And also, particularly for these jobs, I think when you're in the interviews, it's as much an opportunity for you to ask questions of the companies and get to understand the companies and what they're looking for, as it is for you to demonstrate your skills. So it is an interview process, but come armed with questions to that interview if you get through to that process. But we can talk about that more at the next stage for those successful candidates. Yes. Is there any more questions? I think there's a few in the chat. If you're on a student visa, I think that makes you ineligible to apply. But I will follow that up for you.
You need the right to work in the UK. So it depends what kind of student visa, but you need to be living here with the right to live here and the right to work here so you can be contracted.
And great question, whoever said, and we should have said this earlier, these projects are for Oculus. Absolutely, but some companies are looking at whether they develop in Unreal or Unity, and some are waiting to see what creative practitioner skill sets bring to that process. And will the schemes run again in 2022 or not? No, this is a one-time opportunity. There's different ways that we'll do skills training and mentorships and company placements, but I think this is a really unique opportunity, and I'd really encourage you to apply now.
Can I just say a little bit about this? So StoryFutures obviously does run schemes all the time, but the reason why this is so exciting is this is the biggest national history project ever undertaken in the UK. And this is going to be the biggest cultural festival and cultural event happening next year. So I think that everyone's been inside for COVID for so long. And I think that next year there's really going to be some excitement to actually sort of get out and celebrate. And it's a really interesting time to look at where we are as a nation. And it's a really nice way to be looking at history but using new technology. So it's a really great scheme because we're really lucky because we're part of a university. We've got the history department really giving like academic rigor to what we're doing. We're not being dictated to, you know, by like a TV company, but we've got great technology and we're going to have really big audiences. So that's why this particular scheme is only running now, although StoryFutures does do training often.
So in answer to the last question, are the 50 places all in the 3 story trail opportunities? The answer is yes. That's right, isn't it, Rebecca? Pallavi has put a great link in the chat where all the 3 creative practitioner roles are. I'm just going to put that in the main chat as well.
Yeah, I linked to them as well already.
Yeah. So those are the creative practitioner roles that we're talking about. And this we're really aiming to create a cohort of immersive tech creative practitioners that you will go on to know each other and work with each other and develop a network within the industry. As Rebecca said, I think we've all struggled being at home and behind screens. And so it is really great opportunity to work on projects that will be screened across the summer, next summer, that will be out there traveling. The companies want to take these projects beyond the screening as part of the Unbox Festival, also to screen at other festivals and to look at ways that they can use these projects to promote their business in other ways. So the VR projects, particularly ones that have specific themes around disability or environment or diversity, the companies will be, you make something, you don't want it to screen once, even though in this case, once is 9 times across the country, but or in 9 locations across the country. 13 locations, but that companies will be looking to get their VR experience out in as many ways as they can. And I think there was another question, one last question. Did I miss that? The funding's for the projects come from, the companies are funded through StoryFutures, and StoryFutures is funded through UKRI. That is where our funding comes from, which is why I mentioned the research and development at the start of things. Our funding is specifically to help small businesses grow in the creative sector in immersive technology. So I am a producer of what is called Storylab, and Storylab works with companies to give them opportunities in creative technology. So if you have a look at what Storylab has done before, we've worked with the National Gallery, Heathrow, Discovery, and a lot of production companies to produce immersive technology experiences for those organizations. And it's a competitive process that SMEs participate in, small, medium-sized businesses participate in. So you're growing in your career and you're going into a company that's growing their business. And we hope that you can grow with those businesses because that's what the funding is aims to do. We're getting very close to our 6 o'clock turnaround. Thank you so much to everyone that's been here the whole time and for all your amazing questions. One last question potentially about distance. I'm traveling for the StoryFutures in-person intro to Unreal course this week. Is there someone I should get in touch with to chat and have a proper tour? Thanks, everyone, if you do have to go. Let me see who I can put you in touch with, Sarah. But yes, definitely should network and with the StoryFutures team while you're there. So the tour will be, I don't think there'll be specifically a tour because I don't think that that's hosted on location in Royal Holloway, is it? But definitely in terms of networking, we can pass on some contacts for you. Could you follow up with us? In fact, we'll put it in the chat now, our email to follow up with any questions to our team. And if you could email there, Sarah, I can pass on some people for you to meet when you come to the Unreal course. And that's Unreal that you're coming. Awesome. storyfutures@royalholloway.ac.uk is our general email for all questions related to this VR application. We really hope you put your applications in. give it a go. I don't think you've got anything to lose. The application process is not that hard. Just, you know, show us all those things that you really want to get across to people that sometimes in an ordinary application process you can't. Transferable skills, unique interests, unique experience, where you want to go with your career. Please put all that in. We're looking forward to meeting you and getting to know you. And one thing for me in working with StoryFutures, we say this to companies, but I think it really applies to people that apply for things. It may not be that this works out to be a perfect fit for you, but you've come into our network and there are so many opportunities that are happening, or so many different placements. It's really great for us to get to know you. And that's what we want to do. We want to meet and get to know as many new people working in this sector. I think it's really great for us all. Yeah, as Rebecca said, we haven't had that opportunity to do it in person. I can't meet you over drinks at the festivals or Digital Catapult or any of those other sort of networking locations that we normally would have. So put an application in. It's one of the ways for us to get to know you, and hopefully we get to meet you in person one way or another in the coming few months. Is there anything else? Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I think we'll end it there. We're right on time. And email us any more questions. It's a great, diverse, interesting, collaborative team. We really all of us work well together. The companies we're working with, they're so much fun, and they're so clever and talented, and got some great people that I think you will enjoy working with. They are really experienced in their sector, but also in working in R&D, and they're really working hard to grow their businesses. So I think it's a great opportunity for you to be involved with them. Sorry, Claire, anything else from you?
No, just looking forward to seeing your applications, and thank you for taking the time to meet us, and hopefully we've answered most of your questions.